This week on Head to Head, we have Mandalorian Season 2 news. We look at our favorite member of the Bad Batch from the Clone Wars, and the Knights of Ren are revealed right after this.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. So this coronavirus is...
Man, sweeping the nation.
yeah, it's like really going psycho right now.
Yeah, it's finally hit Michigan, man.
Yeah, it's hit Michigan. I don't know if it's hit where you guys are or what. I mean, I'm sure by now it has. But, yeah, it's hit Michigan. And, you know, the other problem, too, is that in addition to all these big events that are canceling and everything, it's starting to actually affect moviegoers now. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of movie theaters are kind of taking a hit, and even a lot of production companies are taking that hit. That same hit where I saw something on Instagram where The Rock is kind of like postponed some of his projects that he's got going on, sending the crew and families home, everybody to be home with their families and loved ones. I know the James Bond movie, No Time to Die, kind of like the bad
yeah,
pun
it's kind
there.
Of a exactly.
But yeah, that's been held off to November. It was originally released to come out in April, but you know, of course, that's a blockbuster movie, so you don't want everybody trying to run to the theater that's trying to see it. And of course,
you know what? It makes you wonder, like, how many movies are actually going to get pushed up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing. I mean, I think Fast 9 might be actually taking...
Fast 9's definitely, because I had pre-order tickets for it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's funny is that's not till May something.
Yeah. And
I got a whole notice from AMC going, nope, you know what, we're postponing it. I think they actually gave another date, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but actually, speaking of theaters, though, a lot of theaters are doing kind of some things to kind of keep it safe for moviegoers. So they're kind of keeping their theaters at 50%. So instead of the max capacity,
right? At 50, yeah, in Michigan, yeah, they're doing a thing to where once it hits 50% capacity, they mark it as sold out.
Yeah, so to kind of keep the numbers down in the theater. So
I mean, you know, it's a serious situation, but we'll get through it. And of course, you know, hopefully we'll be here for you guys.
Yep,
we're not canceling the podcast.
Yeah, just keep washing your hands.
Yep, keep washing your hands and, you know, doing everything you can. And when you need there is one place that I think it's safe to go during this virus.
Yes, exactly. That always kills all the germs.
Always kills all the germs, and that's the Cantina.
All right.
So what do we got first?
All right, man. So, you know, Rise of Skywalker is about to hit our homes pretty soon. And, you know, there's a scene somebody brought up that in that scene where the new, I guess, I want to call them the New Republic, but the Resistance pretty much shows up. And in this scene, there's a lot of different ships that we have seen before. And, of course, there were some new ships. So J.J. Abrams apparently had, like, tasked the creative department to kind of bring in some of the old ships. So we knew that Rise of Skywalker had a lot of nostalgia to it. So apparently in this cluster, you're going to find like a Naboo starfighter. Of course, you got the Falcon leading the charge. And then I think there's some other ships. And I think that's kind of like this little contest that people are trying to like see what they can pick out. I know the Ghost is in there.
Yeah, the Ghost. I mean, it's funny because when we saw the Rise of Skywalker, I was like, what? I could figure out like some of the ships. Like I saw the Ghost. I saw a few of the other ones, but I think I saw the Naboo starfighter as well.
Okay.
But the thing is that they listed a bunch of different ones, and I'm like, I didn't see that one. But then again, if you look at how many ships are in that whole fleet,
that massive fleet,
crazy.
They actually had the medical frigate from
Empire Strikes Back. I saw that.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. So this is a good game to kind of play, you know, with your friends who are Star Wars fans. You know, you can just, hey, let's see what ships you can spot. And
well, you know, what's funny is as we're recording this, they released the Rise of Skywalker early.
Yeah, as a
digital.
Yeah, for the, you know, everybody's kind of trying to stay home and kind of have that social distancing. So, you know, they were really cool. Like, hey, well, since you're at home, watch some Star Wars.
Right, because it wasn't supposed to come out until the 17th.
The 17th, yep.
But it's out now.
Yep.
So
on digital, at least.
Yeah, on digital. It's Blu-ray and
I think Blu-ray release is still at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's at the end of the month. But if you guys want, you can actually catch this on digital and check out and see if you guys can spot the ships.
Does that mean Disney Plus?
No, because I think that they want to still pay for it. I mean, if you're watching Disney Plus, obviously you would get it for free. Mm-hmm. And they still want people to buy or rent it or whatever. And that's an interesting point, too, because I had thought maybe they were going to release it on Disney Plus, and you almost wonder, when are they going to release it on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Because they want to make all their money off of it from sales and rentals and everything, but when are they going to release it just for Disney Plus subscribers?
True.
But I don't know. So did you think, here's a question for you. Did you actually think, when you saw all these familiar ships that were in this fleet, did you think that was a little bit too much fan service, or was that one of the things that didn't bother you that much?
This didn't bother me because, one, I mean, it's kind of like the Star Wars has always been like in a galaxy far, far away, and so you kind of expect, like, okay, a lot of these things to kind of survive, these models. I mean, I think about it now, like, you still see people driving around in a 65 Mustang, so why wouldn't you have an older ship from a different era still riding around, still keeping it up? So, yeah, I mean, this was actually cool. And I think this was actually kind of one of the things that I loved as far as fan service, because, one, it actually ties everything together in that regard without being too on the nose. And then on top of that, everybody, it just kind of shows like how everybody from old to young is pretty much trying to beat this First Order. So it kind of has that whole vibe to it. So yeah, it was cool for me. What about you?
I wasn't bothered by it. I actually thought that this was something that would make sense in this universe. Kind of like what you were saying. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't necessarily think that just because something is fan servicey, that necessarily makes it a bad thing. Now, I do, as you know, and we both share this opinion, that there were a little bit too many fan service moments in The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. Where it was completely unnecessary and it was kind of shoehorned in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't actually think that was one of them.
Yeah, man, I thought it was really cool. Like I said, I think it added to the whole call to action that everybody, like, hey, we need all hands on deck. Young, old, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only problem that I had with it, if I had any problem at all, was just the timing. Because the whole movie takes place in, what, like 16 hours or something? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, how are you going to get... Lando has to go from... where he was, all the way, round up all these people, then get to Exegol. I mean, there just wasn't that much time for them to do this.
My only thing, I mean, the only way I guess you can probably say it is like you had like relay beacons. Like, okay, maybe he had to go to like a hub where they can kind of get the message out to everybody.
Like a mass text.
Like, yeah, basically like a mass text to everybody, and just like, all right, this is the emergency broadcast system. Everybody, all hands on deck.
What's funny, if you remember, we did bring this up during our Rise of Skywalker review, which reminds me, if you guys didn't see our Rise of Skywalker review, definitely check for that, because we went through pretty much everything that we had issues with or whatever. So I don't know. Well, what do we got next?
Well, next we unfortunately have some sad news, and that is the passing of great actor Max Von Sydow. He passed away at the age of 90 years old. He actually had a pretty big role behind the scenes in the sequel trilogy of the Star Wars franchise. So we see him at the beginning of The Force Awakens, and he has a very short-lived scene, and that where, unfortunately, he passes away in that too, but at the hands of Kylo Ren. But if you actually follow the Rise of Kylo Ren, that whole comic book that they have, you see that he's actually a big part of his travels with Luke Skywalker and knowing who Kylo Ren really is. And so that's why it makes that whole scene in The Force Awakens that much more valuable, because it's like, oh, okay, this guy was here the whole time. And you kind of get a sense of who he was as a person. But the actor, tremendous actor. He was in the Game of Thrones series. He was just a marvelous guy, and it is unfortunate that he has passed, but he's 90 years old. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of
one of those things that was very similar to when Christopher Lee passed. Mm-hmm. On one hand, you were sad to see it happen, and he had a big part of a lot of the movies that you enjoyed, but once you cross 90, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that said, to me, he will always be Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon. That was the one role that just stuck out. It's what I remember him from. It's what I've, all through the years. I love that. When it finally came out on DVD, even, I was like, oh, this is great. And then, of course, it came out on Blu-ray. And that's just, I don't know why, but that particular role made a huge impression on me. And anytime I think of him, that's what I think of.
Gotcha.
But I will say this, that I always got the impression when I first saw The Force Awakens that the Lor San Tekka character was a lot more important than the screen time that he got in the movie.
Sure.
You could tell that he definitely played a huge role in the Resistance, and you knew that there was a definite connection to the Skywalker family, and I don't know, you just felt like there was a, like almost like a huge, rich backstory to that character.
And the thing about it is that, you know, unfortunately, we didn't get to see a chance to see that really fleshed out in the movie, and I always thought it was a waste in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things I will say about the sequel trilogy about Star Wars. Unfortunately, they have tremendous actors like Benicio del Toro. We have Gwendolyn Christie. We've had Max Von Sydow, and you know, these are tremendous, great actors and actresses that, like, okay, you kind of wasted them. You know, they're really good at their craft, and it's like either they didn't get enough screen time, or the screen time they did have was kind of wasted or pointless. And so it was like,
yeah, you know
like you could have put anybody in the, you know, in the Captain Phasma suit, in my opinion.
That was exactly the point I was going to make.
You know? Is
that any good actor could pull off a lot of these roles that they put these people in, but it's right. Why would you get somebody like this of this caliber? Yeah, just for this role, when you could get any working actor that's, you know, halfway decent to play the role. I never understood that either. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, definitely.
But what about you guys? I mean, do you think that? Well, first of all, how did you feel about Max Von Sydow, and what role, other than maybe his role as Lor San Tekka or Ming the Merciless in Game of Thrones? I forgot who he played in Game of Thrones.
He was, what house was he in? It's right at the tip of my tongue and I can't get it out. But yeah, he was, well,
I remember he was one of the more major characters.
I think he's
right?
Lannister. I think he's in Lannister house.
Interesting.
If I'm not mistaken.
Well, obviously that role didn't make as big of an impression on me, but, you know, whatever role it was that made an impression on you, definitely leave it in the comments section. And what about the Lor San Tekka character in particular? Did you guys think that that was a wasted opportunity? Do you think that they picked up his story at the right time, and now we're getting all this, like you said, in the comics, we're getting all this great backstory? Let us know in the comments section. All right, what do we got next?
All right, my friend. Now we're going to one of my favorite characters, and also one of yours. My childhood actor, Giancarlo Esposito, also known as Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon.
This guy is so good.
He's so cool, man. I love his grand entrance that he had in The Mandalorian. But Giancarlo Esposito talks about The Mandalorian season 2, and he just really has fallen in love with this particular era of Star Wars. He loves the Western vibe. He's really into this character, and he's one of the guys I never really knew that was really into Star Wars like that, and I don't think
I didn't know that either.
He honestly really isn't, but I think he's kind of like he's always been aware of it and he's watched it. But
you think that now that he's in it,
now that he's a part of it, he's kind of like, whoa. And then of course,
this is so cool, and now he's like all into it.
Yeah, and the fact that he loves the fact of, you know, the hero's journey, but this is kind of a different type of hero. This is kind of a different kind of
because the Mandalorian's kind of an anti-hero. Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think, and then the fact that it's kind of like in that Western vibe, whereas that's something that you're not used to seeing in Star Wars or any space movie for that matter. You know, so I think that vein is definitely intriguing for him. And then they even asked him about the Darksaber because, you know, at the end of season 1, we see him come out with the Darksaber, and we're just like, whoa.
One of the greatest moments in the series. Because anybody that's followed the Clone Wars knows that was a very prominent storyline, especially in the later, was that a season 5? I think that was a season 5 story.
The Darksaber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. It was somewhere in there. It was when they were doing that whole Mandalorian story arc.
Yep. And then they picked up again and
yeah, that's right.
And Rebels.
That's right.
Because then that's when you see it again.
Yeah, it was actually Rebels that I think the dark. They might have mentioned the Darksaber in Clone Wars, but I know in Rebels is where you really saw it.
You saw it because that was that whole arc with Sabine. Sabine Wren. Yep.
Yeah, and then she ended up wielding it and everything, and then I think it was taken or something. It's been a minute. But yeah, when we actually saw it, what was great was to see a live action version of it.
Because we both looked at it like, yo, is that the...
Yeah, is that the dark? No.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's what they did.
And to find out that he's wielding it, it really makes you wonder, what are they setting up in season 2? Definitely.
He said it's going to be like phenomenal. He said he loves the story writing, for season 2. He's like, it's really going to blow our minds. And then they even asked him about the Darksaber. Like, well, have you been using it? He's like, yeah, he's broken like a few of the props already because he's gotten really into like.
Well, in case you guys are wondering what we're referring, we'll leave a link in the description, but there was an interview that he did where he's talking a lot about his role in season 2 and what's going on. And it really does give us a lot of insight, I think, as to where season 2, I mean, it's not giving us any story details, but it's definitely giving us the tone that season 2 is going to have. And so far, it sounds really exciting to me.
Yeah, everything is kind of like taken up a notch a little bit. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I hope that, I hope it actually lives up to expectations. I mean, in my opinion, I think season 1 broke a lot of, at least my expectations.
Well, I think everybody expected, but once they announced The Mandalorian, everybody was like, okay, well, this sounds cool. Like, this was like a real cool idea.
Right.
And then once you kind of started seeing like some of the pictures, you're like, all right, this looks sweet. But it wasn't until like Celebration when you saw like the trailer.
Yeah, that's true.
And everybody was just like, yo, like this is
going to be really good.
It's going to be like amazing. And then so when we finally get to see the first episode, you're like, yeah, this is cool.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. In the description section, in the comment section below, give us what you are looking most forward to in season 2.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes without saying, right? More Baby Yoda moments. Well, maybe it is Baby Yoda. Maybe it's more Darksaber action. Whatever it is, let us know. I will tell you mine. I'll start this out. It sounds terrible, and I know I keep yammering on about fan service, but I want to see Boba Fett.
Honestly, I'm really interested in this guy, like Moff Gideon, because I think, like, given the state of where the Empire is right now, because there's no Emperor, so you got people trying to hold on to stuff. So I'm really trying to wonder, like, his character, because I know he can bring as an actor. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, man, like, how is he really going to, and what's his ultimate plan?
I'm looking at that too. I mean, especially even from a story thing, because you have to wonder, if this is going to tie in Palpatine at all, because are they trying to get this Baby Yoda species to because, the theory is basically that they want to drain his life essence, put it into the Emperor, and that's part of how the Emperor is resurrected. Although we have to deal with, even though I don't know why everybody has an issue with it. But remember when we were talking about on one of our other podcasts how it was revealed that the Emperor was a clone?
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, well, duh. I mean, what else would he have really been? Because even we were talking about before the Rise of Skywalker came out, well, you could resurrect him, but that's going to be a hard sell.
Yeah.
It's much easier. I mean, even Timothy Zahn in his Heir to the Empire novel made him a clone. So I don't know why. That concept's been around for a while. I don't know why everybody's freaking out and thinking it's a new thing.
Yeah, this is because you can't even say it hasn't been done in Star Wars, because heck, you have a whole movie called Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, the clone thing is right. I mean, it's not,
and he commissioned it, mind you.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the fact that some people might feel that's lazy storytelling, but I don't know. The fact that clones do play a prominent role in the prequel trilogy primarily, and it's mentioned, and there's this whole concept, it just seems to me that, okay, and this isn't that much of a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think that, if you really follow everything through, like you've mentioned this before, that Palpatine's always been he's always been obsessed with creating life. With the clones, I think that made the most sense with having a clone army. He's the one who kind of commissioned that whole thing. And that was the whole setup of the Clone Wars.
Right. He was the guy.
He was the guy.
He was the one that
all.
was behind all this.
He has the facilities on Camino that no one else knew about. So, I mean, like, all of this makes sense. So it's like when you finally bring it full circle to the Rise of Skywalker, yeah, the most powerful, you know, baddie in the galaxy, why wouldn't he have a contingency plan? It's okay. He knows he's going to die because the dark side does age you. So he knows, like, okay, I can't live on this way, but if I can find other ways to live on, then yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, and here's the thing, and this is one of the things that I always talk about with other people when they bring this stuff up, is I can understand wanting to leave The Mandalorian sort of as its standalone story. Like, you don't always have to bring in everybody from the movies or whatever into it. However, since we are dealing with the remnants of the Empire, and since obviously they're hatching some sort of a plan, it would stand to reason that maybe this is something Palpatine put in place in order to essentially resurrect his, you know, essence or whatever.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't bother me.
No, it wouldn't.
And the reason why I say the Boba Fett thing too, number one, I would like for new canon to address whether or not Boba Fett survives a Sarlacc. And there is that mysterious guy, and I think it was episode 5, where there was that, I can't remember her name, that one bounty hunter that they were after, and they ended up killing her because the Mandalorian was helping the younger bounty hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then he ended up betraying him or whatever. Well, there was that famous scene where there was some guy with those boots with the spurs at the end. A lot of people have theorized that that's Boba Fett because Boba Fett had the spurs. So we'll have to see.
My question is, I mean, we kind of know, like, what is the Sarlacc pit anyway? I mean, like, we know it's like this. Is it like an alien, or is it like, I mean, like, as far as like, is it just a animal or some sort of thing?
Yeah, it's just a creature that lives on that. Now, here's the question, though. You know, and who knows if our friends at Sith Talkers are listening to this, because, you know, one of the segments they like to do is this whole character of the week thing, this like encyclopedia entry of the week or whatever, where they take like all these different characters and they give you this whole background on them. Maybe they should do the Sarlacc pit, because that would be cool. I remember reading something, because you remember how I used to buy all those books that were the essential whatever of the essential droids, essential weapons, all that. There was like a creature one that I had, and I can't remember. They did go into the Sarlacc pit and what it was. I don't remember, but I think it was indigenous to Tatooine. What would be interesting is that other desert planet, not Jakku, but the one that they visit in the Mandalorian that had the Jawas and we thought was Tatooine, because they did actually go to Tatooine. In fact, that episode that we were referencing, that was on Tatooine, but I don't remember what it was. But whatever that desert planet was, you know, they had Jawas. Did they have Sarlaccs? So we'll have to see. But anyway, what do you guys think? What are you looking most forward to in The Mandalorian Season 2? Let us know in the comments section. All right, I believe it's about that time, huh? Yeah, man. Gotta leave the cantina.
Gotta leave the cantina. But I'm gonna wash my hands before I leave.
Wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. You know, don't take any of the toilet paper that they have in there.
Right, exactly. Oh, man.
It can get pretty dry out there.
Yeah, so next we have Duel of the Fates. So this week, you know, the Bad Batch has been kicking a lot of behind lately on the Clone Wars.
Clone Wars Season 7 has been really good. And we actually talked about a little bit season, listen to me.
Well, this is
Season 7, Episodes 1 and 2. Now we've seen 3 and 4, so we can go on. And you have a Duel of the Fates that is ready for Episodes 3 and 4.
Yep. So, my friend, who is your favorite member of the Bad Batch?
You know, that's tough. That's actually tough, because I like a lot of the members for different reasons. I keep going back and forth between two of them, though. So there's Tech.
Okay.
And Crosshair.
Oh.
Those are the two that I sort of.
I have a feeling you would go there. I also thought that you would go with Hunter.
Well, Hunter's cool. See, that's what I'm saying. They're all cool. I mean, the only one that I would say that doesn't really get me is Wrecker. Only because, and it's not because of anything necessary to do with him specifically. It's just because he's such a cliched character. They've always had a Wrecker type of...
The big bruiser.
Yeah.
The guy who does, like the Chewbacca or
what's his face in Rebels?
Zeb?
Yeah, Zeb. And even in every movie that you've ever seen, there's always a Wrecker type of...
Yeah.
Just that, yeah. So it's so cliched that I just feel like I've seen it a million times.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I like about Tech is that, yeah, sure, he's more the technical guy or whatever, but he's got a really cool sense of humor, too. Like, he has these cool little commentaries on things, and he's also a little bit tougher than your typical nerdy Tech character that they have. Because, that could be a cliche character, too, actually.
Yeah, just like he's the brains but no brawn.
Right.
But he's actually both.
But, yeah, exactly. He's both. He's smart, and he's funny. Yeah. So, and Crosshairs is kind of the same thing. I always like that sniper-y kind of type of character anyway. But each one, I will say, each one of the Bad Batch, who are now called, Clone Force 99 or something.
Yes.
They, which we see in episode 4. They basically are very unique characters, even among, because they've done that sort of thing in Clone Wars before, where they've had, sort of a rogue clone group or whatever. But this one, I think, is a lot more memorable.
Yeah, definitely. I think they all have their own. They realize that they don't fit.
Yeah,
and they've accepted that, but they also have accepted, like, okay, we're not like the rest of you, fine, but we're definitely, like, you definitely need us, and we know how to get things done, whether it's your way or our way. And I like the fact that they still respect the chain of command.
Exactly. Like that scene at the end of the episode where they saluted Rex.
Man, yeah.
That kind of got to me because it was one of those moments where, usually when they do these types of characters, it's always they're kind of a rogue group and they don't really respect authority. And it's sort of like you call on them because you need them, but you really don't want to kind of a thing. But this group's a little bit different. They do respect.
It kind of reminded me of that scene from A Few Good Men when when he made him salute at
Lawson and Downey.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, it was actually Lawson.
Yeah, but yeah, it was. So I think for me, my favorite one would be Hunter.
Hunter, and he's another one.
He's
kind of cool because he's sort of like on the outside in a way.
He's on the outside, but I love the fact that he's kind of a strategist. He's kind of like a little bit of everything. He's a strategist, but the cool thing about him, he kind of has that Wolverine-like aspect to him.
Kind of looks like Rambo.
Yeah, I was just about to say he looks like Rambo.
Totally looks like Rambo to me.
He looks like Rambo.
He was the guy that I was initially going to go with as my favorite, but it was when I was seeing episode 4 in particular, that's when it just kind of brought some of those other guys up. But Hunter's definitely one that's, like you said, he's kind of a combination of all of them.
But I love the fact that he's the leader, but he kind of has that thing where he kind of allows them to kind of do their thing. Like he lets his teammates do your thing. Like, okay, you know what you're here for. You know how we get down. Just do your thing. So I love that aspect about him. But he also has that kind of that sixth sense type thing where he can smell stuff like Wolverine. So he kind of has like almost like he doesn't have the Force, but he kind of has his own ability. So I think that was cool.
Well, the other thing that I like too is that he'll let his team go and do what they need to do, but then when it comes time to basically lay down the law or whatever, he'll
and they listen to him too.
Yeah, and they listen to him, and it's like he'll let them argue and he'll let them do their thing to a point, but then when it's time to reel it in, that's when he exerts his authority, and they do listen.
Yeah, that is true.
Because early on, Hunter was my favorite. It was the other two guys that once you started seeing them in action a little bit more. So I'm hoping that this isn't the last that we see of those guys.
Was Tech the one who had like in episode 4 when he put all those things and he was able to shoot and the bolts were like ricocheting and killing all those droids? Or was that Crosshair?
I think that was Crosshair.
That was kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Because he
Tekka's a dude with glasses. It's always breaking into the computers and stuff.
Well, yeah, so that's probably Crosshair.
Yeah,
Crosshair and Wrecker are always trying to decide who's going to have the most kills, pretty much. That's the
Crosshair is just kind of this cool, and he's got all these things. He's just not the typical. Yeah, he's just, but not too cliched or whatever. He's like really cool.
But Wrecker is funny, man, because I will say,
like when he was like, "This is the happiest day of my life," and he's wiping away a tear and everything.
I was cracking up.
That was great. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He's not without, some charm and everything like that. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know.
Well,
it's just a character I've seen too much of.
Well, yeah, especially when he just start launching everybody. Like, all right, how are we going to get up there? And he's like, I got an idea. He just grabs people and just starts tossing people up to shoot. And then I'm like, well, how's he going to get up there? And then, of course, Anakin uses the Force and brings him up there. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
So,
I mean, actually, there was a lot of cool moments in Episode 4, too. Like, what was that one that Anakin with Mace were... Because you remember how he kept saying, like, okay, it's not my idea, it sounds like one of my things. But there was something that he said toward the end of the episode. I'm trying to remember what it was. That was just hilarious.
Who, Anakin?
Yeah, it was like between Anakin and Mace.
Was it between Anakin and Mace or Tretch?
Pretty sure it was Anakin and Mace. I don't know. I have to watch it again.
Yeah.
I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Well, yeah, so who's your favorite, though? So I have Hunter. So did you decide which one it is?
I'll go with Tech.
Tech, all right.
Because overall, he's the one that I look forward to seeing the most.
Okay.
Whenever I do. But what about you guys? That's what's important. Who is your favorite member of the Bad Batch? Is it Hunter? Is it Tech? Is it Crosshair? Is it Wrecker?
That's it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Technically now we have a new member.
Oh, Echo.
Yep.
So do you think that he's on the level?
We'll talk about that another day.
I'm sensing another segment. Well, yeah, maybe when we do that. Because what we're going to try to do, we're not going to do a separate review show for the Clone Wars. Maybe we'll do like a
recap or something.
Yeah, like a recap or something, when all the episodes are out, and do something like that. But for now, we're going to mention some of the episodes during relevant segments, but that's about it.
Yep.
All right, well, I guess it's going to wrap it up for our Duel of the Fates, which was somewhat of a duel this time.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we got next?
All right, next we have From a Certain Point of View. All right, so this week...
Our main topic.
The Knights of Ren revealed. These guys. So, I've been...
Of course, they're not revealed here.
Well, from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
But no, the Knights of Ren.
So have you been reading that comic series?
Yes, and then the thing is,
I was going to say, because it's like you're making a lot of references to it, and when I saw that, I'm like, is he reading that comic series?
Yeah, and then I've just been doing my own research because I really wanted to know about these guys because they're really cool to me, and I really felt like they once again were underutilized a lot in the sequel trilogy. I think we saw more of them in Rise of Skywalker, but even then, we still really didn't know.
It still wasn't what we thought we were going to get.
Exactly. So, there's a lot of different comics, especially the Rise of Kylo Ren. And then I was actually checking out some other stuff. And these guys are pretty cool. So the Knights of Ren are pretty much like mercenaries who are Force sensitive or Force adept. So they all have some connection to the Force. They can use the Force, but they're not quite Sith Lords, of course, Jedi. So they're unrefined. And then they're under this leadership of the guy named Ren, who actually wields a red lightsaber blade. And their whole philosophy is just pretty much like you just take what the Force gives you. Mm-hmm. They kind of tap into the dark side, and that's kind of where they kind of glean their stuff from. And they kind of follow like the lightsaber, really. And that's really their whole focal point. And they just go based upon whatever they want to do. If they see it, they want to take it, fine.
That's what I'm looking forward to in the comic books, where they're going to go with it. Because in the Rise of Kylo Ren, the reason why they keep giving Kylo a chance is because of Snoke's recommendation. That goes a long way with them. But it makes you wonder, who is Snoke to them? And how did they meet up? And how did they come to respect Snoke? I mean, obviously we know now that Snoke was created by Palpatine, and that's why Snoke is considerably powerful. And it would make sense that the Knights of Ren would look at this guy's power and go, yeah, okay, fine, you're cool. But it just makes me wonder how they met up. And
well, I don't know how they met up, but the thing is that, so in order to be a member of the Knights of Ren, you actually have to, one, have a connection to the Force. Now, they'll take you if you don't, but they eventually will kill you.
Right.
Now, the other thing is that, especially since they dabble in the dark side, or that's where they usually glean their strength and power from, they respect people who are more powerful. They're always seeking for people who have more power. Where Kylo Ren, the reason why they loved him so much is because of his bloodline. Like, you come from like one of the baddest guys in the galaxy, Darth Vader. You're his grandson. And
of course, Luke Skywalker, when they met up with him, they're like, ooh, this guy's like, not to be messed with.
And they tried it.
Yeah, because that was one of actually the coolest issues, was when Luke just completely devastated these. I mean, those guys stood no chance against him.
And he didn't kill him. That's the thing.
And he didn't kill him. But they're kind of like, yeah, okay, we know not to mess with that guy again.
Yeah. And once again, Max Von Sydow's character, Lor San Tekka, was right there. And so that's why I'm saying, like, there's so much rich history, as you said, about Lor San Tekka's character that, we get to see fleshed out in other mediums. But yeah, the Knights of Ren, so they pretty much use the mask pretty much to create intimidation.
Yep.
They all have their own armor that they kind of created based upon what their strengths are. So if you're like more of a heavy, strong guy, you're probably going to carry around you're going to have like heavier, thicker armor. Their weapons are all kind of like melee weapons. So axes, a mace, things of that nature to kind of like to duel with. So that's kind of their thing. And they all actually have names. I can't pronounce any of them, so I'm not going to try.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, ooh, this is kind of tough. Yeah, well, there is Ren.
Yeah, Ren. That's about it.
I'm good with that one.
You need like Hooked on Phonics or something like to try to pronounce this stuff. But they're really awesome. And like they even go into the creation of course, I mentioned before on one of the other podcasts how Kylo actually got into the Knights of Ren because he had to do what they deem a good kill. And essentially he had to killed one of his classmates who he considered almost like a brother to him, but it was actually on accident. But they didn't deem it a good kill, which I thought was a nice touch too, where it didn't matter that he did this. Their whole thing about what is a good kill, what isn't a good kill, is a little bit more rigorous than what you would normally think. And I actually thought that was a nice touch. In fact, I really like the way they're handling the Knights of Ren in this particular comic series. Yeah, and they all respect Kylo because of, like, once again, who he is, but more so just because of his natural power and ability. Well, here's the thing that's funny is that I didn't expect to like them as much. It's almost like they're exceeding my expectations on how cool of a character these guys really are. Yeah. Their whole backstory and everything is more interesting. That's what I'm saying. And that's why when I first saw them, I'm like, yo, these guys, there's something to these guys. Yeah, I always thought that too. But the thing is that when they're actually going through, I'm like, now that's a really cool, because they could have gone a number of different ways with this. Some more cliche than others. But they didn't. Instead, they went into a completely different direction that I personally didn't expect. Yeah. And I'm really amazed at how they're fleshing this out, how good it is, how quality storytelling it is, and how much I'm really enjoying this. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really awesome. They kind of remind me, the Knights of Ren kind of remind me of the whole Mandalore group. It's just, exactly. Just on the dark side of the Force side, that's kind of who they remind me as far as coming with their own weapons. Cause like the Mandalorians create their own weaponry. They kind of create their own armor, which some of them use as was it Beskar steel or I forgot how to pronounce it. Beskar, right? Beskar, yeah, steel. they use that in a lot of their armor.
Kind of makes you wonder if they've ever gone up against the Mandalorians.
They probably have. And
I mean, I'm sure that's coming up soon.
And even to that point of when you were talking about, when they battled Luke Skywalker, the whole reason why they were coming for him was because he actually was acquiring some of the Jedi holocrons and texts and stuff like that. And they wanted it from Luke. And so their whole thing is just like, what we want, we take.
Yeah, we're going to take it.
We're just going to take it. And it's like,
nope,
not this guy.
Give you a chance.
Yeah. And Luke,
you can walk away now.
And Luke's whole thing was just like his sarcasm.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just knows. Epic. He's just like, really?
It's like, you think you guys are going to be the ones that are going to beat me.
Okay. I went against Darth Vader and the Emperor.
And Emperor Palpatine. All of whom could dispatch you in seconds. And especially because this is Luke as he's gotten even more powerful.
Definitely.
So they're just no match for him.
At all.
And you get that sense. And what was funny was how calm he was. Mm-hmm. And it's just like he just knew. And
you think that, most of the time these guys intimidate just their sheer presence from their look. And then, of course, the number is 7 of them. Mm-hmm. But the fact that, they're all surrounding him and he's just like, as a Knight of Ren, I would be kind of concerned. So would I.
Because he had no more concern than when he went out to milk one of those Last Jedi creatures on Act 2 that he did.
Exactly.
It was like he was just completely calm and serene.
Yep.
And it didn't even bother him.
Yeah, and they were just remarking about how fast Luke was. Like, man, he was like moving like a bolt of light, just between everybody. And the cool thing about them is that they were actually, so their force ability are pretty much that of the Inquisitors. That's pretty much what they're likened to.
Sort of what they reminded me of.
Yeah.
Is somewhat of an offshoot of the Inquisitors, the same kind of a group.
Yep.
And the Inquisitors were a group that I thought were really cool. That was another group that I thought was a cool concept, but I didn't expect to like them as much as I do.
Oh, yeah, I love those guys.
And they're all different, and they each have their own abilities and everything, and they kind of have their own personalities, and they're really cool.
But I mean, I really got a chance to really dig into their backstory, the Knights of Ren, and they're just really, really cool. And it even covers Kylo creating his lightsaber, how that even came to be, and how he wanted it to be fractured, because how he actually found the Kyber crystal, and he bled it. The reason why of course, the dark side fueled it, and that's why it started to bleed. But it ended up cracking because he was warring between the light and the dark side. So I was like, oh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. And then now when he put it in there, because that's why it has those jagged edges or ridges to it. It's not smooth, is because it's cracked for that reason. And because it was so powerful, he had to put those export vents on the sides right here so that the power can shoot out, and it ended up becoming like a crossblade type thing.
And I ended up really liking his lightsaber.
Yeah, the fact that it's not complete, like he has,
it's different. It kind of fits his personality.
It does.
I was really disappointed actually in the Rise of Skywalker when he tossed it. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but no, that's like your lightsaber, man. What would be cool is if he made like a blue version. Well, I mean, he's dead now, but if he had actually made a blue version of that or whatever.
Well, the thing is,
like a light side version of it.
And when he was on the light side, he had a regular blue lightsaber.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about with the whole, crack thing, cross vents and all that.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. To actually see like the light side version, or imagine that lightsaber in green.
Yeah, as an honor to Luke. That would be fun.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think that ship has sailed.
Definitely. But yeah, man, so this is pretty much like, the kind of the backstory of the Knights of Ren. They pretty much took Kylo in. And then, of course, Kylo eventually killed Ren. And that's how he became the new leader of the Knights of Ren. And so you kind of have to wonder, like, what happened, or how did they find out that he switched to the light side? Because at the end of Rise of Skywalker,
that's the one scene, honestly, that continues to bother me to this day, because it seems to me, on one hand, when you do know more about the backstory of the Knights of Ren and they're a little bit steeped in the dark side, the fact that he switched back to the light,
you can feel it,
and you can understand why they would have gone against him,
because they felt betrayed,
right? Because I think at first you looked at the Knights of Ren as a group of people that were put together by Kylo, and that, because remember, at first we all thought they were fellow Jedi students at the temple that just sided with him.
Right.
And, just went off and faced him or whatever. But where you actually realize is that, no, they were a group that were in existence before, and that's where Kylo took the name Ren.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like these dark side users and stuff like that. So it makes more sense in The Rise of Skywalker to me now, after reading the Rise of Kylo Ren comic book, like, oh, that's why when they saw that he had turned to the light side, and they can feel that, that they turned against him. Because at first I'm like, well, Kylo, why did Kylo even fight him? All he had to do was just be like, hey, guys, sit this one out. I'll be right back. But now that you have this information, and this is one of the things that I think is so great about, well, I still have some complaints about the way that Disney and Lucasfilm are handling this, but it is nice that you can read novels, comics, some of the TV series stuff, and actually get more backstory and a little bit more of a rich background on this stuff. And then some things that you might read in a comic or a book inform something that you see in a movie, like in this case, and you're like, hey, oh, that's why the person did that. Yeah,
it makes
sure. Or if you read, Catalyst before you go see Rogue One, there's certain things that between Krennic and Galen Erso that you're, oh, okay, I see what's going on here, because you have that backstory. So that's what's so interesting about, or even the research, like just going in on StarWars.com and
Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia and stuff like that, and just actually looking up and getting the backstory of this stuff. And then when you watch or read something again, it gives it a whole new
context.
Yeah, a whole new context.
Yeah.
But what about you guys? What do you guys think of the Knights of Ren? Do you like the way that they're being handled? Have you read The Rise of Kylo Ren? Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, my friend.
I know, it's that time.
Yes.
I'm going to say it. I say it every week, but I might as well say it now. It is time to clear your mind. That's right. This is where we answer your questions. Who's first?
All right. The first question comes from George Culver. He wants to know, do you think we will see any of the Jedi Council members in the High Republic?
No.
They will not be.
Yeah, I know. I hate to mace out on you, but there's a tiny, tiny chance that we could see Yoda, because he'd be alive.
True.
But I really, and again, we're going to talk about this more on next week's episode, because there was an interview that took place. But if you read the interview, which in next week's episode, we're going to talk about.
So y'all come back now.
So yeah, y'all have to come back and read this. But you definitely get the sense of this is brand new stories, brand new characters. They didn't want to feel trapped and cornered in anything. Whereas one of the problems that you always have when they're trying to fit things in between episodes or story arcs or something is like, okay, you can't do this with this character because this character has to be at this point during this time and everything. And they want to be free from that.
Right.
So even though you could argue, because remember, this takes place like 400 years before the Phantom Menace. Is it 200? Oh, they even shortened it.
Yeah, it's 200.
Oh, that's right. It's between 400 and 200. That's the High Republic era. But the story that they're telling is 200.
Right.
Okay, well, either way, 200 years still. That takes out pretty much everybody except Yoda, maybe Yaddle, if you want to be technical.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, I mean, because we don't necessarily know how these other species. I mean, if you're talking about humanoids like Mace Windu, then yeah, he's out. But if you're talking about like
Ki-Adi-Mundi or somebody like that, but still, once again, they don't want to be tied down to these characters and have to.
Well, here's what I figured they could do, and this would be perfect, honestly, if they wanted to do it. If they wanted to show like Ki-Adi-Mundi or Plo Koon, for example. They can, if they're doing 200 years, you can actually show them as younglings or Padawan learners at that time. So then by the time they get to. Yeah,
and I see where you're going.
So if you just want to show them
and it doesn't really affect the story too much. Right, it's almost like you just, okay, big deal. They're doing a training exercise.
Exactly. So
but I don't think they're going to do that, though. I don't think it's going to be all fan servicey like that. I think they really want to explore a new.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if you just did a cameo thing, like, hey, you and Plo Koon, stop messing around over there and come back. This is like, oh, that's Plo Koon, cool. And you just move on. Like, it's like, all right, we gave you that. And you just keep going. I don't think we need to see a whole adventure or something with them, but if you just kind of.
Exactly. The adventures of Plo Koon and, whoever.
And Master whoever. Yeah. If you just do something like that, or.
Because the pre-orders of the books are out, actually. They even gave a couple of the character names. This is going to come as a really big shock, but I don't actually remember offhand. But they do, like. Claudia Gray's, I think, is the second one. I think it's at Justina. I keep wanting to say Thoreau, but that's not it.
Yeah, I know. We'll cover that next week. But yeah, her books are out. They're not out, but all the books are available for pre-order. Right.
There's like 4 of them or something, and you could tell just by the way the stories are laid out that it doesn't look like we're going to see any familiar character. But you're right. I mean, it could be maybe somebody's name is mentioned, or like in I think it was it was Revenge of the Sith, where they mentioned Quinlan Voss.
Yeah.
Oh, Quinlan Voss checked in off of whatever. Okay, that was it. Just one name. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of like, oh, cool. They,
he's around.
Voss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or the whole Rogue One, General Sedula, please report to. It's like, okay, cool. And you're right. They could do something like that, and it wouldn't, disrupt canon or anything. Right. So.
Plo Koon to the main office.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, who do we got next?
All right. Next, we have Dave Simke. And his question is, how many episodes will we get in the final Clone Wars show? So,
I believe it's
12.
12, yeah.
Yep. So we're on episode 4 current as this is going out on episode 4. So it's 12 episodes.
So yeah, this Friday will be 5.
Right.
So we'll have another 7 weeks.
Yep.
Essentially, it's kind of like Groundhog Day, right? Another 7 weeks of Clone Wars.
Exactly.
It's Bantha Day.
Oh.
I know, I can get that one. Definite dad joke.
But all right.
And that's the thing. It makes me wonder, knowing that there's 7 episodes of the show left, because they haven't done anything too earth-shattering. I mean, they completed one story arc, basically.
Yeah,
this whole Bad Batch thing, they completed that story arc. It makes me wonder where they're going next.
Well, the cool thing about this last episode is where we really start to see the slip of Anakin using the dark side a little bit.
Yeah, you know what?
That was awesome.
That was cool.
That was awesome.
That was one of the things that I meant to mention, actually, when the way that he handled that. Oh, man. That was really cool.
I might have to bring it. There's a question I have, but I might have to bring that up for next show.
All right. Well, you're going to make them wait a whole week. That's fine. See, now you guys have so many reasons to come back next week.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
I mean, we keep talking about next week's show. We might as well, get to it eventually. But join us next week when we are going to talk about the High Republic some more, because there's this really cool interview that we can't wait to get into and talk about.
Yes, sir.
You got some sort of a question that you want to talk about as far as Anakin.
Yep.
So you guys got a lot to look forward to next week. But in the meantime, in the comments section, let us know what you think about any of the topics that we talked about today, or if you guys have any questions, or if you have any topic ideas for future shows, we would love to know what they are. So I think that's going to do it for this week.
Yes, sir, my friend.
All right. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always. Wash your hands.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.